Please, I would like to inform you all that as soon as the Vice Chancellor procession enters into this hall, we will all remain standing and also the national anthem, the AAUA anthem, and so on. Please try and settle down. Please, shall we all rise? Shall we all rise? Thank you very much. Shall we take the national anthem and AAUA anthem? Good afternoon, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. You are all warmly welcome to the second inaugural lecture at their university, which happens to be the last inaugural lecture for the year 2025. Today's inaugural lecture is titled From Root to Revolution, the Chemistry and Innovation of Modified Starches. The lecture is going to be delivered by a Professor of Industrial Chemistry, Professor Adeleke, Omodunbi, Ashogbon. Please put your hands together. Mr. Vice Chancellor, distinguished principal officers of this university, deans, directors, HODs and HOUs, staff of this university, our dear students, ladies and gentlemen, once again, you are warmly welcome to the second inaugural lecture at the university. Now, taking multiple time, it is my pleasure to invite to the microphone the chairman of this occasion, our Vice Chancellor, Professor Adeleke, to present the 52nd inaugural lecture. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir.
Deans of faculty, professors of department, distinguished professors, directors, members of staff, students of Adeleke University. Very good afternoon, you all, particularly inaugural lecturer, Professor Adeleke, Ashogbon, members of his immediate family. Very good afternoon. It is my honor and privilege to welcome you all to this second edition of our inaugural lecture series. The inaugural lecture is the moment where a professor, having attained the zenith of his career, presents a definitive account their intellectual journey, their contributions to knowledge, and the tangible impact of their work on society. Delighted today to state that our inaugural lectures have become a premier platform, pinnacle of scholarly reflection in our university and beyond. Just 4 days ago, at our 14th convocation ceremony, noted to the August audience that we have progressed from the initial 50 editions to today's 52nd. As this edition will be the last for the year 2025, I'm pleased to inform you that this year alone we have held 21 inaugural lectures. Today, we are profoundly honored to have with us a scholar whose work epitomises our tradition of excellence. He's a dedicated teacher, an innovative researcher, and an administrator of records. His lecture, which promises to bridge the gap between fundamental chemistry and the Industrial Revolution, is aptly titled From Root to Revolution, the Chemistry and Innovation of Modified Starches. This title speaks powerfully to a journey from the fundamental natural origins of starch to its transformative potential in sparking industrial innovation. It underscores the vital truth that profound revolution often begins with a deep understanding of the most basic building blocks, exploring the chemistry, of modification, Professor Ashogbon's work promises to illuminate pathways for sustainable development, food security, and advanced materials, showcasing how curiosity-driven science and practical can indeed address global challenges. Professor Ashogbon began his academic journey with a BSc in Industrial Chemistry from the University of Lagos in 1992, and an MSc in Chemistry from the same institution in 2000 for obtaining his Doctor of Philosophy degree in Chemistry from the State University of Lagos in 2015. Joined AAUA as an assistant lecturer in 2003 and rose to the rank of professor in 2021. During his career at the university, he has held several key administrative posts, including head of the Department of Chemical Science 2023 to 2025, postgraduate coordinator for the University Central Research Laboratory, scholarly credentials are integrated, and author of 44 journal articles, the respected reviewer for top international journals. Further, testament to the global relevance of his work, he is ranked among the top 2% of scientists by Stanford University. His research has crossed continents, having been presented at international conferences in Ghana and India, notably at the prestigious American Chemical Society's Brain Chemistry Conference. A committed member of the global and local scientific community, holding professional membership in the Royal Society of Chemistry and the Chemical Society of Nigeria. Crucially, is also a gifted educator, as recognized by the Students' Chemical Society of Nigeria, which named him best lecturer in his department for the 2013-2014 academic session. On behalf of the entire university community, extend our profound appreciation to Professor Adeleke Ashogbon for his exceptional scholarship, dedicated service, and for honoring us today's lecture today. I am immensely proud of his contribution and eagerly anticipate his insights. He is precisely through pioneering work, such as his translating fundamental science into innovative solutions that our university fulfills its mandate to drive progress and development. Today's lecture stands as a brilliant example of that mission. Therefore, with great pride and expectation, I invite this accomplished scholar, global researcher, professional of STARCHES, and a beloved teacher to the podium, deliver the 52nd inaugural lecture at Adeleke University. Please join me in warmly welcoming Professor Adeleke Ashogbon. Thank you.
Vice Chancellor, the Pro-Chancellor, and members of the University Governing Council, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Administration, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academic, the Registrar, the Bursar, the University Librarian, Dean of Postgraduate School, Dean of Faculties and Student Affairs, Directors and Heads of Departments and Units, eminent Professor, and other distinguished members of the University Senate, members of the congregation, my Lord spiritual and temporal, distinguished staff of Adeleke University, ever-conscious students of this great university, royal dignitaries in attendance, family members, associates and friends, distinguished invited guests, gentlemen of the press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is with great gratitude to God and Jesus, the finest gentleman that ever lived, that I stand before you today to deliver the 52nd inaugural lecture of Adeleke University, the third in the Department of Chemical Sciences. I feel highly honored to deliver the lecture on behalf of the Department and Faculty of Science. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, the delivery of the inaugural lecture is a long, historically established and esteemed practice or tradition within academia. This practice is fundamentally important to academic communities globally as it serves to publicly share the research outcomes, intellectual contribution, and scholarly aspiration of professors who have reached the pinnacle of their careers. The title of this inaugural lecture is From Roots to Revolution, the chemistry and innovation of modified starches. I wish to sincerely thank our Vice Chancellor, Professor Omodunbi, Minister again, for this unique opportunity I have to deliver the lecture. In the beginning, my educational journey was terribly brought to a stop by the Nigerian Civil War. The Ashogbon family to which I belong was asked to leave Libreville, Gabon, if you were not of the Igbo extraction. The Gabonese government was obviously in support of the Biafran agitators. My family belongings were packed out of the house, and bulldozers were brought in to demolish our house. I was young and started crying. My personal toys, and some of them in rainbow colors, were gone. My mother prevented me from looking back, and my father shouted, "I will be back." Our baggage was taken to the airport, and we left Libreville for Douala in Cameroon. My family resettled in one of the many village islands of the coast of southwest province of Cameroon. To cut a long story short, after almost completing my secondary education in Cameroon, my parents relocated back to Libreville, Gabon. I and my immediate elder brother was asked to go to Nigeria to continue our education. My first university admission was into Lagos State University last week in 1984, a place almost a short distance from my family house at Okokomaiko. My mother was vehemently opposed to this admission, saying LASU was not a university and it is a glorified secondary school. She prevented me from picking up the admission form. I had to stay at home for another 2 years before gaining admission to her dream university, University of Lagos, UNILAG, Akoka, Lagos, Nigeria. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, I settled down for industrial chemistry, a course of study that runs for 5 years. After obtaining my first degree in industrial chemistry in 1992, I wanted to change my course of study to organic chemistry due to the immense influence of Professor Jide Alok and late Professor Ashogbon, both of the Department of Chemistry, University of Lagos. I was also interested in physical chemistry and inorganic chemistry, but an elderly member of the non-teaching staff was able to convince me that industrial chemistry is the best, and that it is the application of all the branches of chemistry. The elderly thought survived. All my degrees, Bachelor of Science, Master of Science, and PhD, are all in industrial chemistry. Modified starches are created by altering the chemistry of native starch through physical, chemical, and enzymatic methods to improve properties like heat tolerance, stability, and texture for a wide range of applications, from food and packaging to pharmaceutical and bioplastic. The roots refer to native starches from sources like rice and potato. the innovation in how they are transformed to meet specific functional requirements. Starch is a polysaccharide in the classification of carbohydrate. It is the second most abundant organic compound in the biosphere, closely following cellulose. Starch is cheap, easily available, renewable, biodegradable, and non-toxic in nature. It is easily chemically modified because of the presence of ubiquitous free hydroxyl groups on starch molecule. Starch is the most important polysaccharide in the human diet. There are two main polymers in the starch granules. There are amylose and amylopectin. The amylose is linear with randomly limited branching. In contrast, the amylopectin is a bigger polymer that is highly branched. The physiochemical and functional properties of starches are determined by the amylose and amylopectin, while the presence of infinitesimal quantity of lipids and proteins. Starches for the production of modified starches are obtained from different botanical sources, including cereal, legume, root tuber, and grain foods. Cereal starches are noted for their small granules. On the other hand, the root and tuber starches have been widely documented for their swelling power, especially cassava and potato starches. In contrast, the legume starches are known for their restricted swelling, an indication of strong boiling forces, holding the starch chain and the polymeric components together in the granules. Among the starches from different botanical sources, the legume starches are the most suited for the production of resistant starch. This is because of their characteristic high amylose content than the other starches. Legume starches show high retrogradation properties than cereal starches due to more amylose content and produce higher resistant starches, consequently decreasing the glycemic index. Starch is white, tasteless, odorless, and insoluble in water. If newly extracted starch is soluble in water, it means the starch has been modified during the process of isolation. Starch as extracted from its various botanical sources is called native starch. Native starches are not pure due to the infinitesimal quantity of residual lipids, protein, and ash contained in their granules. Except in the case of waxy starches that contain almost solely of amylopectin, most starches contain a combination of amylopectin and amylose. There is no doubt that amylopectin is predominant in most starches, but there are also high amylose starches. Starch is in high demand both in the food and non-food industry. The high demand is because of its cheapness, renewability, biodegradability, and affordability. Furthermore, the physicochemical, functional, and structural properties of starch are easily altered to suit the demand of the industry. Starch is the only biopolymer that experiences the phenomenon of gelatinization. The free hydrogen groups on starch make it hydrophilic and not necessarily soluble in water. These functional groups can be easily changed by chemical modification, and the modified starches will possess entirely different structures, properties, and applications when compared to the parent starches. Modified starches are natural starches, like from wheat and potato, altered by physical, chemical, or enzymatic processes to enhance specific properties such as texture, stability, viscosity, resistance to heat or acid, enabling their use as versatile food additives. Thickeners, stabilizer, emulsifiers, and in industrial, pharmaceutical, and biomedical application. The revolution in their application stems from their ability to transform a readily available renewable resource into highly functional ingredients with tailored property for diverse needs. There is need for modification of native starches due to the limitation associated with them for usage in the feed industry. Such hindrances include insolubility in cold water, tendency to easily deteriorate, and sensitivity to sudden change in pH, temperature, and stress. Some of the native starches have limited quantity of resistant starches, but they are insufficient, and therefore the need for modification in order to increase the resistant starches. There are basically three methods for the modification of various starches: physical, chemical, and enzymatic modifications. The native starches obtained from the extraction process due to poor functionality are not acceptable for utilization in the food and non-food industry. Therefore, the need for modification to mitigate these shortcomings. There are different types of modification. Specifically, chemical modification involves unique processes such as acid hydrolysis, acetylation, cross-linking, carboxymethylation, phosphorylation, succinylation, hydroxypopulation, hydroxymethylation, and coagulation. It is a combination of these unique processes and unique operations that brings about the conversion of raw materials into desired products or next products. Sometimes, as the case might be, especially in chemical modification, it is the gross product that is formed. The gross products consist of byproduct, co-product, recycle, wash, and net product. The net product is the purified starch or modified starch. There is need to separate the net product from the remaining component of the gross product, and this is achieved by unique operations, making use of the physical differences between the net product and the other components of the gross product as criteria for their separation and purification. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, it is necessary to state from the onset the shortcomings of native, single modification, dual modification, and triple modification of starches that necessitate an attempt at quadruple modification of various starches. Native starches, single, dual, and triple modification of various starches have their significance in terms of altered functionalities of starch property to satisfy the growing interest of consumers in both the food and non-food industry. It is logical to state the problem inherent in the native starches, single, dual, and triple modification of various starches. In the first place, native starch usage in food applications are limited due to intrinsic factors such as insolubility in water, lower gelatinization temperature, retrogradation, and loss of viscosity during cooking. All the limitations stated above for native starches that inhibit their utilization in the food and non-food industry necessitate the need for modification. The second stage is the problem associated with single modification of various starches. The succinylation process possesses desirable qualities such as high solubility in water, better thickening power, high viscosity, increased paste clarity, retarded degradation, and fused down stability. However, succinylated starches are unstable during sharing at high temperature. Therefore, they need for new modification to mitigate these shortcomings. Another example is that of acid hydrolysis is widely non-specific, randomly attacking the alpha-1,4 and alpha-1,6 linkages and leading to the production of undesirable products apart from the next product. Some porous starches produced by dual enzyme modification have inherent shortcomings, such as low resistance to share, heat, and light sensitivity to thermal degradation, which limits their application. To further enhance the absorption capacity of porous starches, the enzymatic hydrolysis modification is often combined with other treatments, such as moderate gelatinization, freeze-thawing, and heat mortar treatment, to improve the efficiency of preparation. Sometimes these porous starches are treated with cross-linking or repeated heat mortar treatments to improve their absorptive property. The problem associated with the 3 stages of triple modification is that it is too costly in terms of many inputs, such as energy, materials, temperature, and pressure. There are broadly 3 types of starch modification. These are physical, chemical, and biological modification. Each of these modifications can be further classified into their single modification and their combinations into dual, triple, or quadruple modification. The whole modification is summarized in figure 1. There are some limitations in usage of native starch in the food industry. Therefore, the need for modification. The single modification is categorized into physical modification, chemical modification, and enzymatic modification. Physical modification involves the usage of heat, steam, sound, pressure, and electricity to alter the physicochemical, functional, structural, and biological properties of starch granules. Physical modification is really safe, cheap, and sustainable when compared to other forms of modification. The physical modifications are of 2 types. The physical modifications are of 2 types. Those that brings about the preservation of the starch granules, and others resulted in total smashing and destruction of the starch granules. Other researchers base their own categorization on thermal and non-thermal classification. This method has been highly criticized because some of the so-called non-thermal, like microwave modification, are not entirely non-thermal. Some of the physical modifications are boil milling, hydrothermal, pre-gelatinization, cold plasma, high hydrostatic pressure, ultrasonification, pulse electric field, microwaving, emission beam irradiation, gamma irradiation, X-ray irradiation, and autoclaving. Chemical modification is the substitution of the free hydrogen groups on starch with other functional groups of the modifying agent. The resultant effect is alteration in the physicochemical, functional, structural, and morphological properties of modified starches. In the chemical modifications, there are cases of cleavage of the alpha-1,4 glucosidic and alpha-1,6 glucosidic bonds. The consequences of rupture bonds are depolymerization, decrease in viscosity, molecular weight, and obvious increase in fluidity of the starch system. Some of the chemical modification processes are acid hydrolysis, oxidation, esterification, esterification, and cross-linking. Enzymes are organic products. Enzyme enhances effective pollution and accelerates the rate of reaction. Unlike acid hydrolysis, enzymatic modification does not produce byproducts, and the enzymes are retrievable at the end of the reaction. The enzymes that are involved in the enzymatic modification of various starches are alpha amylose, beta amylose, amylose sucrase, glucosidtransferase, polylanase, and isoamylase. The main reactions that take place during enzymatic modification of starches are hydrolysis, debranching, and branching. The hydrolysis part deals with the cleavage of the glucosidic bond, both alpha-1,4 and alpha-1,6. This fragmentation resulted in depolymerization, reduction of molecular weight, and viscosity. There are also availability of fractional starches, called them amylose, detached from the branch points of amylopectin. If the reaction persists, processes like repolymerization and transglucosylation cannot be prevented. The glucosylation will cause the formation of many branch structures, some of which will serve as resistant starch, thereby resisting digestion in the small intestine. The debranching is chiefly actualized by polylanase and isoamylase. The branch points of amylopectin are ruptured, and amylose content of the granules increase tremendously. The branching part deals with repolymerization, transglucosylation, and formation of branch structure of various layers of starches. Isocorrosion and endocorrosion are the two ways in which enzymes degrade and depolymerize native starch granules. In an extensive study, native corn starch was extruded, extruded, and the tree was subjected to enzymatic treatment using compound enzymes. The resultant effect of this combination of extrusion technology and enzymolysis is the production of porous starches with different porosity and specific surface area, as illustrated in Figure 2. The importance of porous starches will be elucidated throughout the text. Dual modification. There are two types of dual modification that can bring about an increase in the resistant starch already present in native starches, or produce resistant starches in the native starch without resistant starch. We have homogeneous dual modification and heterogeneous dual modification. The previous explanation under introduction on characteristics of various starches is necessary in order to better understand the impact of single modification, pre-treatment, or dual modification, post-treatment. The purpose of the pre-treatment is to prepare the starch granules for easy modification of the dual treatment. This is done by weakening the starch chain and the bonding between the polymeric components of the starch granules. Another functionality of single modification is to generate surface flaws, cracks, pores, and sometimes furrows on the granulized surface for easy desorption of the dual reagents or enzyme. This is that dual heterogeneous modification of various starches involve physical, chemical, physical, enzymatic, and vice versa. It must be noted from the onset that physical chemical and chemical physical are not the same, and the product produced are not always the same. This is that sequence or order of the actions matters in dual modification. Specifically, acetylated amyl starch is different from amyl acetylated starch. One is better than the other, depending on the end uses of the dual modified starch. The properties displayed by the dual modified starch depend on both the treatment and post-treatment reagents. The pretreatment must provide the enabling conditions such as morphological starch granule flaws and weakened starch shape for easy penetration and reaction of the dual reagent. The properties of the net product, soil starch, seems to be determined solely by the dual reagent, but the contribution of pretreatment cannot be ignored. The properties of the dual modified starches are summarized in Table 1. Triple modification. The problem associated with native starches, single and dual modification of various starches have been stated above in order to justify the utilization of triple modification of various starches. In triple modification, the single and dual modification as pretreatment prepare the starch chain, structure, and polymeric component of the starches for the acceptance and accommodation of triple modification. Sometimes the development of pores, cracks, and other methodological flaws on starch granular surface, or weakening of starch structures and chain during the first and dual modification, in order for easy penetration of the modifying agent during the third modification. There are mainly two types of triple modification, that is homogeneous and heterogeneous. Homogeneous triple modification is when all the three stages of the process are similar. For example, acetylation, oxidation, cross-linking. This is homogeneous chemical triple modification. Another example of homogeneous triple modification is a combination of extrusion, ultrasonification, and knurling. When three enzymes, alpha amylose, transglucosidase, polylanase, are involved in the stages of the process, it is called homogeneous triple enzyme modification. In contrast, heterogeneous triple modifications involve combinations of various three stages that constitute the process. For example, extrusion, polylanase, and knurling. The properties of triple modified starches are summarized in Table 2. Quadruple modification. This is a 4-stages process. The problem associated with quadruple modification of various starches are briefly discussed below. A. The 4 stages of the quadruple modification of starches are too long and expensive because each stage involves extra inputs in terms of energy, material, temperature, pressure, catalyst, reaction ratio, and time factor. The more the stages involved in the process, the more the cost of the process. For each extra stage, the more the extra inputs. B. For this 4 stages process, the more the stages and the possibility of side reactions, apart from the main reaction, the problem becomes more pronounced. Side reactions lead to the production of co-products, byproducts, and recycled material. There is need to separate the desired product from the cross product. And this requires the uses of unit operations for the separation and purification of the net product. This unit operations processes that go with drying, sublimation, filtration, distillation, crystallization, crystallization, evaporation, centrifugation, and humidification, always very expensive. In acid hydrolysis of starch, as part of the quadruple modification, there is uncontrollable random attack on the glucosidic linkages, which resultant depolymerization, fragmentation, and production of many undesirable products. And further complication is that the used acid is not easily retrievable from the next product. If acid hydrolysis is one of the first stages of quadruple modification of starches, the whole process becomes more complex. There is need to separate unwanted product from the next product apart from the acid used for the process. These four stages process should be avoided if not absolutely necessary. Application of modified starches. The utilization of modified starches depends on many factors, including botanical sources of the starches and the specific processing condition used during modification. These factors determine the final functional properties, such as gelatinization, retrogradation, solubility, swelling power, viscosity, that are required for a specific industrial application. Other factors could be considered are amylose to amylopectin ratio, granule of origin, internal structure, and minor components. Single modified starches are used as thickeners, jelly agents, and texturizer in food products like soup, paste, and bakery items to enhance stability against heat, acid, and freezing. They also act as disintegrants and binders in pharmaceutical and as sizing agent in the paper and textile industry. Other applications are in the paper and textile industry as sizing agent and carboxyl methyl starches used in wallpaper adhesive. Specifically, 12 chemical modified starches are widely utilized in the food industry as emulsifiers, binders, thickeners. Furthermore, they are applied in the non-food as heavy metal absorbents. The method of preparing double modified starches using combination of acid hydrolysis and heat moisture treatment results in net product with higher resistant starch. Resistant starches are very important because of their health implications and non-digestibility in the small intestine. They are breaking down in the large intestine into smaller molecular weight fatty acid and applied in the management of diabetes, obesity, cancer, and other cardiovascular diseases. The utilization of modified starches depends strictly on their physicochemical and functional properties. The properties of the modified starches also depend on many variables, such as the botanical source of the starch, reaction medium, and reaction conditions. The microwave ultrasound-assisted cross-linked starch, with its alluring characteristic of thermal stability, high freeze-style stability, and acid resistance, will be utilized for processing quick frozen foods. The quadruple modified starches are used in the synthesis of resistant starches and its implication in the prevention of obesity, diabetes, and other cardiovascular diseases. Furthermore, it has also been utilized in the preparation of porous starches that have been applied as organic absorbents in the purification of water systems and removal of heavy metals in contaminated systems. Porous starches are also significant in the pharmaceutical, cosmetic, textile, sugar, pork, and pepper, and other chemical industries. Conclusions and recommendations. It is absolutely true that most of the native starches possess limited amount of resistant starch that might not be sufficient to effect the necessary health improvement needed. The various modification process will increase the quantity of resistant starch in the different modified starches. The resistant starches are structurally altered so that they are not digested in the small intestine by enzyme. They escape to the large intestine or colon where they are fermented or metabolized by microorganisms. These resistant starches converted to short-chain fatty acid, and they are necessary for the management and control of obesity, diabetes, colon cancer, and other cardiovascular diseases. The modified starches also extensively apply in the food and non-food industry. In the non-food industry, they apply in cosmetics, pharmaceutical, textile, chemical, pork, and pepper. The main conclusion is that through physical, chemical, or enzymatic modification, starches can be tailored to exhibit specific desirable properties, such as improved stability, controlled viscosity, and enhanced texture, making them suitable for a vast range of modern applications. Recommendations for modified starches depend on the desired application, such as using cross-linked starches for heat and acid stability, esterified starches for emulsion and fused starch stability, esterified starches for clarity and viscosity, and oxidized starches for low viscosity and high clarity. Generally, starchy foods are better eaten in the cold. For hot, starchy foods contain low content of retrograded modified starches. This is that resistant starches. But if cold starchy food are warm or heated, most of the resistant starches are still retained. Acknowledgements. To God Almighty, without Him there's nothing. Without Him I could have been 6 feet below the soil. There have been critical instances in my life where God came to my rescue. For instance, I was inside a boat that subsided in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. I was also involved in a costly motor accident along our Omodunbi road. In all this, God saved me. I promise to pay more attention to things that glorify His name. To my parents, Mr. Zelion Ashogbon and Mrs. Florence Ashogbon, were dying aged. They saw me through and made sure I was strong enough before departing the stage. When my father died, I was 40 years old, and when my mother joined him, I was 50. So there was no tough time. It was a smooth ride. I was the golden child, surrounded by so much love and protection. Special thanks to my mother for protecting me from the polygamous heat waves. The Ashogbons were 8 from my mother's side. Florence and Francis, late. Taobola, Regina, late. Omodunbi, Adeleke, Adeleke, late. Oluwambe, Renibo, and Oyekami. These are the brothers and sisters who surrounded me with plenty of smiles and laughter throughout the night. I am deeply grateful to all of them. To my brother from another mother, Zainab Oluwalasle, thanks for being always there for me. You are deeply appreciated. I'm profoundly grateful to our visionary and esteemed Vice Chancellor, Professor Olugbenga EED, for his unwavering support and invaluable opportunity he has graciously extended to me, including the esteemed privilege of delivering the 52nd inaugural lecture of this great university. I sincerely thank the university management for their steadfast commitment to academic excellence. I especially acknowledge Professor Adeleke and Professor Olusegun Akiwobi, Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic Administration and Academic Respectively, for their visionary leadership. Special thanks to Mr. Olugbenga Registrar for his dedication to due process and institutional integrity. Mr. Toby Orina Bossa for sound financial management, and Dr. Dori Yemisi Oluwafemi, librarian, for enhancing knowledge assets. Your collective effort continue to strengthen this great institution. My profound appreciation goes to members of Senate for their contribution to academic decision making that brings about maintaining of high standard of education in the university. I thank and greatly appreciate my Christian brothers and sisters at Grace Covenant Church, Upe Akoko. The head of the church, Bola Ademuagu, is a commissioner in the administration of Ayegatiwa in Ondo State. Academically, the families of the Akintayos are exceptional. Both husband and wife are professors of industrial chemistry. Professor E.T. Akintayo was my PhD supervisor, a highly respected man for his intellect and kindness. He is from Chemistry Department of Ekiti State University, Ado Ekiti State. My own professor, you are deeply appreciated for the knowledge imparted. I also want to thank and deeply appreciate some families that have always been there for us. Professor Olusola and wife, Dr. Chief Bode Iwaloye and his wife, Dr. and Mrs. Olariwa, Dr. and Mrs. Ebomo, Mr. and Mrs. Adewumi, and the great Omoshi family. Other good and impacted families to be grateful for are the Omomuwa sons, the Arodi Salas, the Ikumo Nations, and the Omojubas, and the Olipedis. Before I let go. The whole of Kosa community is deeply appreciated for their love. The most important, my immediate family, I won't exchange them for anything else. The family was solid rock. The family was solid rock backing me all along my academic life. My children, Eyitemi, Ilemombayo, Ayomide, Adewale, and Itunu, and my dearest, honorable, and delicious wife. Different ways in the tale of my academic life. I appreciate the presence of everybody. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Ashogbon, for that insightful presentation. Please, a warm round of applause for him. And again, I want to thank him for not unnecessarily taking our time. Please put a hand together for him. We have just listened to the last inaugural lecture of the year 2025. And it was just delivered by Professor Adeleke Omodunbi Ashogbon. Mr. Vice Chancellor, it is now your turn for your closing remarks. Please welcome Mr. Vice Chancellor.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think we have eradicated Ebola. So if there are still patches of Ebola somewhere, what you are saying is that if you go for my enemies. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. This is the second inaugural lecture. Well delivered by Professor Adeleke. I have said it severally that professors in this university can hold their head anywhere in the world. Professor Ashogbon is one of the 2% best scientists in the world. And there are several of them like this in this university, several of them. And his department of chemistry, very many of them. And computing, very many in biochemistry, microbiology. These are greatest scientists of our time. I want to appreciate you, Professor Ashogbon, for this lecture. As remarked by the Deputy Registrar Information, this is the last of the year. And thank God that Professor Ashogbon delivered the last inaugural lecture for 2025. By January 2026, the special grace of God, January 13, will also be hesitant to listen to another very, very exciting inaugural lecture. That one will be delivered by Professor S.O. Omodunbi, the Dean of Computing. Thank you. Professor Omodunbi has been adored by NUC as the best artificial intelligence professor in Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, let me thank all of you. In spite of the fact that we are already in Christmas season, we have turned out for this occasion in large numbers. I want to appreciate you all. Let me particularly thank the member of council of this university, for attending this function. Thank you. Thank you very much. The member of council of this university was there on Saturday for the project completion ceremony. Great day there. Otumba Dr. Ode Waloye is also here. Sir, thank you very much for coming. Thank you, sir. The friend of this university, Chief Nick Bingo Petroleum. Thank you very, very much for coming. Dr. M.O. Terebo, Chairman of the Association, Koko, is also here. Thank you, you're welcome. Mrs. B.A. Terebo, wife of Dr. M.O. Terebo. Thank you for coming. And God and the Association of the Koko, thank you all for coming. This is Baby, Professor Ashogbon's sister. Is she here? All right. Thank you, my This is Irinimo Nilola. It's also Professor Ashogbon's sister. Thank you. Let me recognize especially my friend who supervised Professor Ashogbon's PhD test. I think he's here, mention his name. Professor E.T. Akintayo. That is a foremost professor of industrial chemistry. Let me also thank the delicious wife. Ashogbon, thank you very much. That language encompasses everything. So, thank you for giving him necessary support. And your English Ashogbon, daughter. Thank you. You already have a husband there. Ashogbon is also here. Yes, thank you for coming. It will know Ashogbon, the daughter. And finally, Omoshni Ashogbon. Okay, all right. Thank you. Very, very much. I thank all of you, faculties, directors, heads of department, and the other distinguished professors that are here to this occasion. I also appreciate the extended family members of the inaugural lecture. I can see that we have some groups with ANCO from, is it from where people are where? From Gagogo. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you. And then professors and members of staff of the Government of Paris. They are all here in their numbers. It will be interesting to know that just 2 days ago, another 2 professors were promoted in that same department. On behalf of the university, thank you all. Wish you Merry Christmas. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of the 52nd inaugural lecture titled From Roots to Revolution, Chemistry and Innovation of Modified Starches, delivered by Professor Adeleke Omodunbi, and on behalf of the Vice Chancellor of this great university, I want to thank all of you for making it a very beautiful day with us. And on that note, I will rise for the AAUA anthem and national anthem.